Well, good morning again, Grace Church. Hope you are having a good start to your week. And I think now we're in week 8 or week 9 of our stay at home here, self isolation in this pandemic. I wanted to read a passage today that I've heard quite a bit quoted during this time that we've been going through in this pandemic. It comes from Second Chronicles chapter 7. Second Chronicles chapter 7, where Solomon's just finished building the temple, and it's in the process of the dedication of the temple. And so God says these words to Solomon. He says, "When I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain, or command the locust to devour the land, or send pestilence among my people, if my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land." I often hear this verse used in a sense in a negative way. I hear people say, well, our country is drifting so far away from its Christian foundation that God is now judging our nation with this coronavirus, and people in Canada need to repent from their wicked ways and turn back to Him. Well, is God judging our nation, or in a sense, judging the whole world with this coronavirus? I'm not about to declare what God is doing and what His purpose is in all this. Only He knows that. I do know, though, that I can trust God because I know that God is sovereign and that God is in control in this situation. This pandemic does not surprise Him at all, and that ultimately His purposes will be accomplished through this crisis we're going through. The bigger concern I have, though, is with that kind of negative thinking that we see so often when we think God should be admonishing people for their wicked ways, but we think that He needs to be admonishing those people over there or someone else. It's like on a Sunday morning when you've heard a really good, challenging message, and then we gather in the foyer together, and hopefully we can do that again soon. Or we gather around the dinner table after a Sunday morning at church, and we start to talk about how good that message was, but how good it was for somebody else. We might say things like, "Well, I'm glad Jane Doe was in church this morning because she really needed to hear that message." Well, this passage in Second Chronicles really struck me as I was reading it a few times over because God here is talking to His people. He says, "Those who are called by His name." He's not talking about like the general population, those wicked people out there. He's calling on those who are called by His name. They are the ones who need to humble themselves and pray. They are the ones who need to turn from their wicked ways. God was saying to the nation of Israel, He's saying, when you face problems, and yes, maybe those problems are ways that I'm just trying to get your attention, but He's saying, don't shift the focus to other people as if somehow they're the cause of the problem. Don't play the victim here. And in a sense, God says the same thing to us, His people. You see, we are the ones who are called by His name. We are followers of Jesus. And He's calling us to stop looking around and see how other people need to change so that things will get better. No, He's saying start doing some introspection, start looking at yourself, do some self reflection. You see, we need to start looking in the mirror and then humbling ourselves before God and then asking Him to forgive us for the sins and the things that have really come between us and Him. I was listening to a talk by a well-known apologist. Maybe you know him, Greg Koukl. He is part of a ministry called Stand to Reason. You can check it out online. And in his talk, he was recalling back to the days of 9/11. And he said, he observed that, or we as a community observed that after 9/11, many people went back to church again. They were drawn back to go to church. And we all thought that, wow, that was a great thing. But then Greg made this profound statement that kind of really hit me. He said 9/11 drew many people back to church, but it didn't draw them back to God. And I guess that's my prayer for us during this coronavirus pandemic again, that it won't lead to the same outcome. It won't lead to an outcome where, yeah, we're drawn together again as a church family, the sense of connectedness through social media and through our live stream services and all these wonderful ways that we keep in contact with each other, and yet we are never actually drawn closer back to God. See, we need to humble ourselves. We need to do business between ourselves and God, and come to Him in prayer, asking Him to come and change us, to transform our lives. I need to ask Him to show me what I need to change so that He can begin to heal me. And then that will begin a process where we see healing happen in our families and in our church, one person at a time, essentially. See, God promises that when His people come and pray to Him and seek His forgiveness, He will begin to heal their land. But it begins with us humbly coming to Him and asking Him to work a healing in us first. So that's a challenge to me, and I'm hoping to you again this morning, that we need to humble ourselves during this pandemic and ask God to help us to draw closer to Him. Well, looking forward to see you again next time. Have a super day.